Hey, it's March 4th, 2022. Wow, this month is flying by. We're already in March.
It's crazy.
Happy Friday, everybody, listeners, viewers. It's going to be a great one today. We have this precious little lady on. Look at those big eyes, huh? Awesome. Dr. Choo's in the house. He's our expert on mental toughness. So we're going over, I don't know which show we're on. We've been disputing 8, 9, 20. Trying to figure out the mental toughness, what it is, where does it come from, is it developed? We're still formulating that idea because everybody comes up with something else. So why don't you introduce yourself to us?
Do you want my whole life story or just my name?
just to start, yeah. Who are you?
Yeah, I don't know anything about you. Hello.
I'm a stranger. No, my name is Kaysee Armstrong, and I am from Knoxville, Tennessee. That's a lie. I'm actually from Morristown, Tennessee. It's a little bit east, but whatever. I live in Knoxville, so yeah.
And she came through Freddie Smith, our biker, our kick butt biker guy. So he said, hey, we should have her on. I was like, fits perfect to what we're trying to do.
We've had a bunch of dudes and dads. Dudes and dads, and you're our first female, so this is good. Yeah. To talk specifically about mental toughness, so this is great. Yeah.
Females are so tough mentally.
Oh, yeah.
There's
no doubt about it.
It's
babies,
baby.
Yeah. And you can take hot showers.
I take cold showers, too.
That's what I take. I can't do the heat every time it's so hot. I'm like, good gosh, I'm getting out.
Well, this is great. And Fred had mentioned you. I and Charlie and I didn't know anything about you. Did a little bit of digging just to try to figure out what the backstory was. And Fred wouldn't suggest you unless he for a very, very good reason. And when I did the little bit of digging that I did, I was like, oh man, you've done a lot. And some of this seems very tough. So tell us a little bit about your athletic background first so that people get an idea of why we want to speak to you.
Yeah, I feel like I've known Fred, for 4 or 5 years now. So I feel like I finally have made it in his eyes, Like I've been a pro athlete for a while, but Fred just now suggests to me, I'm like, good job. But
Fred commands that type of respect, I guess, Chaz.
Yeah, if you get that from Freddie, you're doing something.
Well, he actually suggested it after I kind of kicked his butt on a bike ride. So it's taken long to finally do it. Fred's
awesome.
super strong.
Yeah, he bragged about it too.
That's great.
Were,
yeah.
Right?
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. So,
but
so it's not just bike riding. You have, tell us about the disciplines and all that kind of stuff that you do.
Yeah, no. I grew up doing competitive cheerleading. Shocker.
Really?
Yeah, no. But then it turned into whitewater kayaking, which then turned into mountain biking. And then I won collegiate USA Cycling Nationals. And then
who did you bike for in college?
Do you know King University? It used to be King College in Bristol, Tennessee. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So,
I didn't know that there was a competitive collegiate team.
Yeah.
It's mountain biking.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Well, so it's kind of like a weird story, but I got into mountain biking just with the community of Knoxville with friends. And then
describe that. What's going on in Knoxville with the biking community?
Well, it started off with it feels like 10 of us, and then it's blown up to 1,000 people. You go to Baker Creek parking lot and it's so many kids, so many adults, and I don't know anybody, which is nice because used to it was it felt very under the radar, and you had to jump fences while you were trying to follow people through the trails of South Knoxville. But now it's just blown up. The community is huge.
You guys have led the charge of connecting how many trails in Knoxville for the?
Gosh, I can't even tell you, but just in South Knoxville, there by downtown. I mean, we have over 50 miles now.
Wow, that's amazing.
So, yeah.
So you were early in on that.
Yeah, but I was not the leader. I would say Brian Hand, Matthew Kellogg, the people over at AMBC, and I just so happened to come in, I feel second tier.
Wow, that's great. So that you got in doing that, and then it turned into something more. You got caught a little fire?
Yeah, no, I am hyper competitive. So everything I do, I feel it's okay, I'm going to do it to its max because, I don't know. I feel in my family, addictions are pretty strong. So instead of it being addicted to drugs or alcohol, I'm just addicted to sports. So
Really? Okay.
yeah, it feels like a little bit of a healthier outlet. So I just feel like I picked up the mountain bike and really loved the community and friends. And even though I was really bad at it, I was like, I'm just going to keep going. But then I asked King, because I found out they had a like cycling team. I was like, did the contact us link on the web, and was like, hey, I ride bikes. Can I be on your team? And then they never responded. And I was like, oh, guess not. And then I actually was riding with a friend, like on a group ride, and they went to that school. And they were like, wait, what? You tried to get on the team? I was like, yeah, but you guys never contacted me back. And so then the coach reached out, and they just did road.
Oh.
And I was like, I'll do a couple road races if you support me to go to the mountain bike races. And basically, like, I showed up to USA Nationals, like the collegiate one, and I came around after the first lap, and they were like, and Kaysee Armstrong, where did she come from? And I was like, I don't know. But so I got second that day, and it was like this realization.
U.S. Nationals?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Which it was just like a big realization of like inside I was like, maybe I'm better than I think.
Wow. So you literally just showed up to U.S. Nationals, never done it before, and you came in second?
Yeah, for collegiate, not like the one I do now, which is like the pro elite.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was a big deal there too. Yeah.
Yeah, let's not downplay that guy.
Dude, that's crazy. Right. Yeah, that's amazing. So then you...
And then I got a full ride to college.
And they were like, well, we're going to keep you.
And I was paying for my own school, so I was just like, okay, I'm going to get 2 graduate degrees now.
Back up for a second. How old were you when you first picked up a mountain bike?
19.
You're 19. And then you picked it up just here in Knoxville? Or is it just... Yeah. And then that's kind of hard to do, right? I mean, you get on that bike. Chad, let's talk about, Charlie, the experience of... This man actually helped Freddie get to be where he is today. And you remember the first times that you threw Freddie... I mean, he did a little bit of mountain biking beforehand, but you kind of remember... when you threw him on a beater bike and you're just like, try this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, he's not going to share any. It's all about Fred. We get it, Fred. You did it all on your own, big guy. Yeah, when he got back in town and he settled back, because I trained Dr. Choo and Pennington and Freddie in high school, and then, of course, through Chad's college and pro career. And then when these guys came back, they hooked right back up with us and started training. And you could tell all of them get a competitive spirit, especially Chewy and Freddie. So I'm like, hey, let's go road biking one day. And I put him on a Wicked Witch of the Oz bike, pedaling like this. And he killed it. And I was like, you should start competing. And that's when we started devising programs for it. And he's, in here getting it done and, recruiting everybody for where he is.
So, and here's the other thing, though, I want to ask you, because part of his assessment of how a athlete will be, he's got a lot of tools in the tool belt. Just you can walk in here, look around, and you see, okay, this guy has trained a variety of different athletes at the highest levels. But one of your assessments is to throw someone on, not everyone, but you throw some people on a mountain bike, take them out the left side Concord for the first time, and you see, okay, it's like, what do we got here?
Yeah, the analogy, David Boston, a wide receiver that was, first round pick years ago, and he came in to train with me. He's like, man, you throw people in the deep end and see if they could swim. And I thought that was a great analogy, because he just came over a broken foot and hasn't jumped yet. He was healing, and I had plyometrics set up for him. So I pull them back after I see what they got. So it's scary situations or injury situations, and then we pull back. But you want to see how they survive in those conditions at first. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you know that left lap on Concord?
It's pretty hard.
Yeah.
That's why I'm laughing. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, that's where we don't go. He doesn't take people to the right side. He's immediately, when it's wet and rainy, always put people on that left side.
On a single speed?
On a single speed. That's from 1993.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so,
they're back there.
Yeah. And what do you see? What do you try? You talked about that. What you see from people and how they react. Let's fast forward to a person like this, just kind of saying, What are you gleaning from this?
I love Fridays when we do these shows, and I really it's a pleasure to have her because we have different people on here, and now we got Griff pulled in to helping Ben with the production part of it, but Griffin was one of them. So this guy is so fun to have in here because it's so cool to make fun of him on Friday. It's so awesome because when I put him on the mountain bike the first time, and he's a very, very elite athlete. He's gifted in so many things. He's just that natural kid. And he said that was the hardest thing he's ever done. I mean, and I won't go into anything else. Like
I actually
clips. I never ridden a mountain bike.
I actually rode with his dad. Remember that?
Yeah. I rode with his dad. He was like, "This is harder than any professional football I've ever had in my life." And they get that look of scared of like, "Are we getting out?" And I always like, "Chopper picks us up at 1800 hours. Let's go."
You're like stuck in a vortex out there. You're like, how long?
And when I'm biking behind him,
take?
because it's always the young guys, and I'm the fat old guy, and I'm biking behind. They're going hard. Then they get waxed, and then they're like, "When are we getting out of here?" I'm like, 2 more minutes. And it's always been 2 minutes for the last 32 years. And then I know they're going to push hard again and wax themselves. And that's when you got them. They're on the ropes and they're like, whatever. I'm numb now. I don't care.
You've been doing that on and off for what, 20 plus years?
Oh God, it makes me feel so good about myself.
I can't wait to do that to a kid one day now.
But so when you hear this, Charlie, when you hear, okay, she just picks up a bike, 19 years old, and just Geronimo.
No, that would be a lie. I feel like I picked it up, went to the trailhead, and then turned around. I was like, this is too hard.
Yeah, but what
I had to keep up.
what are you picking out from this story? Are you picking out some stuff?
Yeah, just driven. I mean, you could tell when I met her. I mean, it's the same look that Sam has. People either have that look or don't. I mean, that's why I have, I think, 3 shirts with my face on it. Hello, narcissist. I'm me. But my eyes could see things before other people can. Even the athlete is like, oh, I can't do that, or I can't. And you could see it. So she had that. She just explained her history of addiction.
Yeah.
We all know those. I mean, we have people in here that have turned into monsters in training and shape and gave up the alcohol, their pills, or whatever. Yeah. So I think she's going to do everything at 100%.
Yeah.
And I think the gymnastics is tough as hell. I don't know how the transition from competitive cheerleading to cycling. That's like, we asked Choo. Chewy was my first guest 4 years ago on a podcast. What the hell made you want to climb all the peaks in the world? I just wanted to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's really, really interesting that you just picked this thing up. First time out of the gates, collegiate US national, second place. Now, tell us more about the other events, because how these events are not just, they probably evolved to harder and harder things as you kind of dove into this stuff, and it gets to be insanely hard. So describe some of the events that you've done.
And you know these events, right? Because
I know of them.
Right, but the bio that I sent to you, you read everything.
Yeah, and I listened to some of it. They're crazy. Yeah. So explain.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm out there now doing those events. I'm like, how did I get here? Mm-hmm. Like, what did I decide to deserve this? But, that's just like in a moment of like misery. But it's funny because like collegiate is an hour and a half ride. So it's like not that long. And then now I do events that are 12 hours long.
Right.
So it's just like, for me, I can't really quite put my finger on how I ended up here, but it's like, it started with getting out of collegiate, and everybody that was around was doing this 100-mile mountain bike race series called the NUE. And they were like, you know what, you should actually, this is while I was still in college. So this is before I was pro. It was like my 3rd year of mountain biking. Somebody was like, you should do Shenandoah 100. And I was like, that sounds like a great idea. And then the day after that race, after it took me like 8 hours, I couldn't like pick up a fork because my hands were so done. Yeah, like it was like I couldn't button my pants, and I was like, that was
in
fun.
Virginia?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really pretty over there.
Oh my God, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, so it's just like, I feel like the people around me kind of were into it. So then they introduced me to it, but then I really loved it, and the feelings that I got out there, and just like being outside all day suffering. So then I started researching what I could do, and I had never been out of the country. So whenever I graduated from college and got I got a grad degree, but I'd won at this point USA Cycling Nationals. Like I'd gotten a bunch of gold medals.
Is that college or
college?
Okay, college.
And then so I was like, what should I do with my cycling career? And I wanted to travel the country, so I signed up for a stage race, a mountain bike stage race in Chile.
Explain that.
Yeah, so this one was called the Trans Andes Challenge, and this one was 7 days long. So every day it was like basically went from point A to point B. You slept and ate, and then you got up the next day, and then you went B to C, and you did that for 7 days
How
straight.
long is A to B and B to C?
It could range from 2 hours to 8 hours. So you never knew what you were going to get.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You had no idea?
That one was just like, it wasn't as specific as races are now. Like now it's like, okay, this race is going to be 200 miles and this amount of feet, and here's the GPX route. Like back then, it was very much like, all right, show up at this time. You're going to get roughly 40 to 50 miles, probably a lot of climbing, and then there might be an aid station like every hour.
You have no
or so.
idea. They don't really tell you anything.
It just like
you kind of go in blind.
Yeah, at that
Holy
point,
cow.
it felt more. What would you call like beginner? Like, what's the word I'm looking?
Novice?
Yeah, maybe just like rough, like
Like
it
a
was-
proto race, like
Yeah.
very basic. Like I mean, it was not very sophisticated race.
Exactly.
you
Like
know.
nowadays, people want that specific
Yeah.
GPX route, and like this one felt more like, okay, like here we go. And even back then, adventure racing was really big, and it's not anymore. And that was like,
How long ago was this?
I bet 6 years ago.
Okay. All
So-
right. Not that long ago then.
No, but
Okay.
it's crazy to see how much in 6 years has changed. Like things, when I go to a race now, I get a GPX route, you know?
Wow.
And people don't do adventure races as much, which is like longitude, latitude, find this point in the middle of nowhere,
Oh,
try
wow.
to get there, get a stamp, and then move on.
Wow.
People
Okay.
don't like that at all because you might be like swimming up a river, you might be running, you might be biking.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Okay.
they do, but it just doesn't seem as big, you
So
know?
you were very specific to mountain biking, or was it other stuff too?
No, very specific to mountain biking. Well, that's a lie. I mean, I did trail runs, and then my friend Ryan O'Connor was really into adventure races,
I
so
played
I got
soccer
into
with
that.
Ryan.
I love
okay.
Ryan
yeah.
so much. Yeah, no, he will talk you into some bad ideas and
Yeah.
be smiling the whole time,
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's just like kind of developed into that by the people I've surrounded myself with, I feel like.
Okay. So it was basically your community and these.
Yeah.
And I'm somewhat familiar with the community, and they love these crazy, and they've been doing it for a long time now.
Yeah.
Where they go just like to these burly, crazy places and do these stage races, and they're insanely difficult.
Yeah, and they don't want to do it alone, so they convince other people to do
Yeah.
it. And I'm
Yeah.
very gullible. I'm like, yeah, that seems like a great idea.
All right. So that's top 3 best races, and what did that all involve?
Well, I guess winning Trans Andes Challenge, like I didn't
So you
win
won
it.
it.
Yeah, I didn't win it the first year. I won it the second year. Like I went to it, and that was my first stage race, my first experience, and I was like second.
How much altitude were you climbing? Do you have any idea?
I mean, usually it's like whenever you had 40 miles, you at least had 7,000 feet of climbing. That would probably be a ratio. It was a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you do any
Yeah.
road cycling? Is it
Yes.
on mountain bike? Okay, so you
Yeah.
do both.
I train on the road a
Okay.
ton.
So and the Trans Andes, you won it,
Yes.
male and female, or female?
Female.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So and then because the hot females are kicking most men's tails in.
Yes.
So and then so Trans Andes. What else?
So winning USA Collegiate Nationals is huge because I got 5 gold medals. Like that feels so good. You're like, yes.
Got
And-
Michael Phelps over here.
I know.
I know.
That's
I
awesome.
wish. No. But then I ended up getting second at Pro Elite Marathon Nationals. So it's a 50-mile USA cycling. And so instead of being
Pro.
collegiate level, it was the pro. I got
Holy
second.
smokes, man, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, that was very, because it was like more of even like this, I don't know, like I deserve to be here type of thing. So.
Yeah. So I saw that you were maybe the top stage racer pro female in the country.
Yeah,
Is
at
that-
some point, like I don't really do those anymore, but yeah, in the past, I would definitely say
in
that.
the country, Chaz, in the countries. There's, I don't know, there's like 300 plus million people, and half of
Yeah.
them are female, and you're the best. That's great. So, the question, mental toughness, Chaz. How does this all wrap into mental toughness? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm like, what you writing down over there? Yeah.
I like the one point. I hope you caught that. Is I again never hit on this yet. Are the people she surrounds herself with? I think that's a smart move to create. You know, who you be around is who you're going to be.
Yes.
That type of deal. I like that. You know what I always find. I'd like to know her definition, but the tougher they are, the humbler they are, and the happier they are. And I try to use H2. Humble and happy for a lot of reasons in here, and you'll find a lot of the badasses like herself and everybody we've had on the show, including you, James. You're just humble and happy, and the gleam in their eye of like they're having fun doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know
Yeah.
if it's
Definitely.
mental toughness because she's doing something she loves. So that's not like, oh, I got to go mountain bike ride, or Ben going, I got to go work out with Charlie. I don't want to do today, but he does it. That's mentally tough getting it done. So I think we have to go deeper on, you know, like I guess we have Jiu-Jitsu Jesus on. He wanted to be world champion,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and Griff and I talked about this off camera is what makes those people want to be the best. We talked about it yesterday with a couple other guests and people that came through. What is that? You know, did you get into cycling for more competitive edge, or did you get into it to go, I want to be the best, and how do I go about being the best?
Yeah.
Right. No, definitely not to be the best. Like I actually this year made a New Year's post because I said, you know, I don't really want to set a New Year's resolution because if I think back to 10 years ago, I would have never, ever thought I want to be a pro cyclist because it just wasn't even in my realm of thoughts, you know?
It wasn't in your skull.
Yeah, it wasn't even in my environment.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't
Wow.
have thought that was possible. So even with them picking it up, there was never, even in the first couple of years, being like, I'm going to be a pro at this, you know? So, and before I went officially pro, got a contract, get paid to do it, there's this guy within the mountain bike community that goes to a lot of the races with me, and his name's Kevin Zirkle. And he had helped me a lot, like within, you know, traveling the country and stuff. He would go with me, But he was like, are you sure that you can do this and you want to do it? And I was like, I don't know. It was like something like ticked in my brain, and it was like it ticked me off. I was like, you don't think I could do this? And then and then it was funny because a year later I had to do this interview, and it was like, you know, what would you name your book if you did a book on yourself? And I was asking Zirko, I was like, any ideas of what that book title would be? He was like, tell me I can't do it, and I'll show you how wrong you are. And I was like, oh, that's so good.
Yeah, is that part of it? I mean, does that kind of drive you a little bit when you?
I guess so. It's like, I don't even know it. Like, it's definitely
Like
just,
she likes the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and then embraces the unknown. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
where
Yes.
Yeah.
You have
Uncertainty.
people doing it different ways of like, I don't know where this is going to go.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess then you have I think there's two ways to that. Is you do have people that go, this is my dream and I'm going after it as a kid, like me, of doing this. I knew at 8, 10, 11, whatever, that I was going to write programs and help everybody
Yeah.
for the rest of my life. That was, so what I'm doing, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm so surprised I'm world champion like she was. I was like, no, I was born to do this.
This is what I was supposed to
And
be
I always
doing.
refer to Griff because he's doing the doc on it.
Is
So-
that how you feel? This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Do you have a sense of that?
No.
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 Hell no. And that's the beauty of it too. But then when she got to do it, she was like, wait a minute. Like the first race when she came out first, that's what we talked about. I'm pretty good at this. So
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
always, when people are saying, which, you know, is social media, find your passion. I'm even preaching to the kids in here. It necessarily doesn't have to be your passion, but if you find something that you're really good in,
Yeah.
it becomes your passion.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh,
So that's a
100%.
twofold too.
Yeah. And I feel like some digging within myself and realizing like where I am, it's like this realization that I've never put a limit on what I could do. Like for example, within my family, like I'm the very first person that ever went to college, but I remember when the decision got like whenever you graduate as a senior, it was like there's no question in my mind. Of course I would go to college. Like why would I be limited by like my family and my scenario? Like that just never occurred in my brain. And then with cycling, it was just like showing up to everything my friends invited me to and not, I mean, of course I was nervous and scared, like even just going on group rides, like, man, I hope I don't get dropped or like be left behind or die today. But it was just like, yeah, there's just never a limit. Like I always am okay or down to do it, you know?
So in that community, just having known some of these people, there is this culture of suffering.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they suffer fest, suffer this, suffer that. I don't know if they still talk about it like that, but when I heard it, it was suffer this, suffer that, suffer fest, badge of honor, suffer. Why would anybody want to do that?
Yeah, I think that if you do focus on the suffering, it's not going to be a long time pursuit. Because for me, it's not that I love to suffer. Or I go out there to suffer specifically. I know it's going to happen a little, but it's like finding the flow of it. Like stop pushing so hard, but like just feel it and listen to your body. Does that make sense? Like it's hard to put a word to it because it's like, I'll notice it within riding sometimes, like if I'm constantly just striving or pushing and not listening to my body versus like relaxing into it and feeling like even just like simply like my legs pushing the pedals. If I'm constantly just worried about the next thing or like pushing to it versus like coming into myself and focusing more on just like literally pushing the pedals and figuring out where my legs like need to be like using the muscles. Does that make sense? Like there's like this weird flow that you have to try to find because if you're not flowing, you're just like hitting rocks and you're like all over the place versus kind of like coming into like what's happening, the present moment, you know? Always trying to find that present moment in meditation, but I can't do it.
Yeah.
That's what I came up with. Again, I take the notes. Chewy's the storyteller.
I love it.
There's a purpose for this. We can't have 8,000 stories. I'm trying to get to what mental toughness is, and he brings it with the story, and I just sit back and listen and take notes. So I do like, I said it before you just said it. I wrote it down before. Just be in the moment type person she is. And she doesn't see suffering as bad. She sees it as feels good. And the one thing I really like about her, and Griff, I'm working on Griff with that, is she doesn't overthink anything.
No.
She just goes with it. Like right now, if I said, man, I got a couple mountain bikes, let's go rip the trail. She'd be, all right, let's go. Like, that's a sign of a champion too. It's like they don't overthink it, they just do it. And the suffering, that suffering's played out too. I feel like, oh, I got to suffer. Why do you have to suffer? I mean, what's wrong with feeling, like your chest is going to, but when she gets in her flow state, the rhythmic state of, flowing, we all been there. That's not suffering. That's a really cool state to be in. You might have to get to the first hill and get over that heart rate that I have to, where you feel like you're going to die. And then you come out of that. Now you're like, there's no more suffering. It's like going to the other side and going, this is what it feels like to get there. Does that make sense?
Does that resonate with you?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of times for me, whenever you do get that feeling of like your heart rate's up and I'm not going to make it to the top, I think there's this moment of like trust that I know my body can do it. Maybe it doesn't look exactly the way I thought it was going to. Like, if it's a really steep hill, I might be like halfway up and I'm like, oh no, like I'm not going to make it to the top pedaling. And it's like, instead of focusing on that, I'm like, ooh, I should just hop off and run up it or whatever it is. Like it's like a quick transition of like, instead of saying I can't get up there, it's like, well, how would I get up there? Like, what's the other option here? You know what I mean?
Okay.
So,
well, here's Chaz. We've talked about a lot of different. We're talking about what's going on now and where she is through this entire process and what it's like to ride and what's going on in her head, which is kind of different from Fred. Fred would talk about the mental check down. Remember that? Like which is a different mental process, which I think is kind of cool. You might want to listen to it and see what he has to say. It's pretty interesting. Good. So hers is different. Hers is more like very much in the moment, intuitive, it seems like. But we also talk about the past, right? And how the past shapes people, right? And where their environment comes from. And everybody's a little bit different. You have a past. Everybody does.
Yeah.
And you touched upon it. So explain a little bit more because I think it's very here and now in Appalachia, East Tennessee. Your story could inspire a lot because there's so much that's going on right now in our communities, whether we know it or not. So explain a little bit.
Yeah. Everybody has a past that is special to them, but it's turned out like now that I'm 31 years old, I'm like, wow, we kind of all have the same, resilience and it's not a perfect background. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, I grew up, my parents were actually never married. So I spent a lot of time with my dad and a lot of time with my mom.
Morristown, right?
Yes.
Morristown, okay.
And to be specific, it was Whitesburg. There's no red light. And I grew up on a beef cattle farm, and that was my mom's side. And then New Market, which is Jefferson City, was my dad's side.
Okay.
And at my mama's house, which is where my brother and my first cousin and I spent most of our time as a kid, didn't even have heating and air, you know? But it wasn't even a thing that I registered, you know? But lots of alcohol, lots of drugs. My mom was.
You say drugs, what kind of drugs?
It could range from my dad died of an overdose from opioids, and then my uncle died after doing meth. Okay. So it's a range. Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There it is.
And
so she's got demons when she's out there. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
You push. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
Look at Ukraine. You don't think those people are tough?
Oh, yeah.
Lomachenko?
Yeah, Lomachenko.
Did you see his picture? He's sitting there with a rifle and the two heavyweight brothers over there.
Yeah.
Product of the environment.
Yeah.
So that's a whole lot of trauma in your life. Well, for that's the word to use. And whether you even, at the time, probably even as a kid, you weren't even aware of it, right?
Yeah, I feel for the first 12 years of my life, I was probably oblivious to it because it felt...
You come from divorce?
They were never even married, so no.
Oh, wow, okay, so that's... Yeah.
My mom was 21 years old and my dad was 21, and they were at a rock concert, and then my mom ended up with twins, so...
Oh, you have a twin... Brother.
And your father's passed away from... overdose.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's I did have a great childhood full of great memories, but then it was there's a switch. At 12, it was their demons started becoming very obvious to mine because it started overpowering their life. All of a sudden, my dad can't drive me home from the bowling place because he is so drunk and taking pills. And it's I'm 12 and I'm driving. And I'm
you're driving.
Yeah, and I'm this doesn't feel right, but I also didn't know that wasn't right,
Yeah.
I like all the badasses are the ones that open up.
Oh, yeah.
No chest puffy in here. It drives me nuts. And Wayne gets this every time Wayne comes in. It's just the two of us. Hey, Charlie, how you doing? Well, I'm work in progress. I'm living right now. And, I get it, Wayne. It's perfect right now for you. They're little. They're this. It's it's coming. The storm's coming, Wang, and it will come. And I love that you're open. And that's why you're such a badass.
I never thought about it that way, to be totally honest. But yeah, I think I hid it for so long till I was 18. And then it was just too much. You know what I mean? Whenever I wanted to be cool, and I'm also this competitive cheerleader. And then I'm also getting phone calls from my uncle that I grew up with. And he's on meth and telling me some crazy stuff and how he might kill himself. I'm I'm not going to tell anybody about that, and you keep it in. And then it was finally just I don't even care. This is me. This is what's happening. And it wasn't I wanted to tell people that, but I was also I'm not going to hide this anymore. This is part of me. I am not them, but, I also love them and I know that they're going through something and I'm not gonna hold that against them.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's a lot. It's a lot of like heartbreak. Gosh, it's so much heartbreak because you go from them being your role models and your heroes, and like my uncle always taking us camping and having the best times, to like, oh my gosh, he burnt down his house because he thought a bunch of people in the woods were telling him that people were coming after him. So it's just like the craziest stuff happened. You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Well, you look at this, Wang, real quick. I was writing this down. Is we talk about that little voice that we all have, where we could go this direction or that direction. So there's the mentally tough. It's still out there for me, but she could have easily played the victim and not the victor. 100%. She could have. Woe is me. I came from this. I had this. So again, we're trying to get to where's the switch, or where's the voice where you turned all the negative into a positive. And then we don't even blame the people that can't do that.
Yeah.
You know, the other people that sit on the bad luck and it's never going to get better. The positivity, you can't be in a positive life thinking in a negative way. It's impossible.
Yeah. I like to call myself a pessimistic, optimistic person. And it's basically like everything I feel like I do in life, I've started to realize, like, I think of the worst. Like, I'm like, well, this would be a worst case scenario.
And like, anything after that is easy.
Yeah, I'm like, and then everybody's like, you're so positive and happy. I'm like, well, we're already doing so good, like, compared to what I thought we'd be doing.
Yeah.
And the people that get floored are the ones that, I know the positive energy, positive vibes. I get all that, but they're always like, I don't want to be around anybody like that. I want to keep it all. That's complete baloney.
You've already seen and stared into some pretty dark stuff.
The abyss.
And knowing that, and taking it for what it is. Okay, almost like how you take your rides. You're looking at for what it is, and you're managing it through as best you can. Right. So it's just, there's the reality.
Well, the positive people see the hard stuff. And run to it. And I think I would say the fake positive people don't run to it and never confront it. And that's why she's a savage. Because she wants to run to the storm with whatever goes past demon she has, and she's going to get through it. So I'm not going to bet against her.
You to be at the start line of my races, just fucking talking me up, I love
I don't think you need talking up. So how old were you when your father passed?
15.
15. Oh man. Okay.
Julie, both your parents still living?
Yeah, they're both.
Yeah, there's a big difference. There's a big difference, and you don't know that yet.
Yeah.
And hopefully your parents just pass away old age, and you glorify and celebrate. But we've had our fathers taken away at early ages.
That's
it's a whole different level of toughness. It's a whole especially a girl.
15. 15 is super early. Yeah. So I want to pull this into. I do a lot of. I've had the good fortune to work with a number of amazing people who have been surrounded by the issues of drug addiction, substance abuse, and trauma. Actually, one of the conferences that I helped found was the East Tennessee Opioid Conference. Was from I think it was last Thursday, actually, a week ago. We had our 5th year doing it. And we've seen the issues from drugs, alcohol, you name it, from opioids to now meth being one of the major problems in this region.
Yeah.
So we've seen a lot of issues with the devastation. Well, it's so complex, but the common story is Appalachia. Okay, the common problem, Appalachia hasn't gone away. People have moved here for hundreds of years, have dealt with poverty, have dealt with, family issues. They've dealt with different substances, whether it was alcohol to begin with. I mean, for hundreds of years, moonshining to marijuana to now pills, opioids to heroin, and now the fentanyl analogs, and then meth. Okay, but the drugs become more and more potent, and the more and more dangerous. For the people that are taking it. All right. So, there's what I have seen and what I've observed with all of this is that trauma is always at the base of what these people are running to or running away from.
I was about to say that.
Yeah. That is primary reason, obviously there's some genetics. Okay. So, there are people who are more predisposed to it genetically, but if you do not have those hard times in your life early on, typically, most people aren't going to be running towards something to make them feel better or feel differently from their circumstances. Okay. So you have those genes in you. I mean, just by the nature of your uncle and your father, sure. You have changed the course of your generation, though.
Yeah,
you have changed the course of the future, whatever future that you decide to have, and that is a really important story because that is very much here and now in our region, East Tennessee. And let me tell you, the problems aren't getting better right now; they're just getting. I don't want to be negative Nancy, but it's just getting worse. It's the truth. I mean, we had a conference with the heads of TBI, the drug DEA, you name it. If you heard the stories, you'd be floored about what's going on in our communities. What I love about having a person like you here is that you're a ray of hope and light because you had those stories.
Yeah.
You have that background. You've had the losses. You've had the adverse childhood experiences to a level of, a very high level, okay?
Yeah.
Which should, quote unquote, predispose you to all these problems, but you have done something differently. And I think that's an important story. That is mental toughness, and you have changed the trajectory of your generations moving forward. And I think that's something really, really important to talk about.
I think what is something to realize is we are constantly, whenever we see our parents aren't great or the thing we don't want to be, we constantly run away from it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if you just accept it and know that's who you are, and instead of running away from it, you own it and build from that, it's way better. Because it's my dad, my uncle, a lot of people are running away from their demons, and running away might end up being alcohol, it might be drugs, versus me, I'm okay, this is part of me. I do have an addiction personality. I do have this. And sure, I don't want to be that, but I need to own that. And I'm going to use it to my advantage, you know?
Well, you, instead of burning down your house.
Yeah.
You became a national champion.
Yeah.
Right? So you sublimated something to something completely, your trajectories couldn't be more different.
Yeah.
As a result of this understanding of what was going on and also community. Your outlets and all that kind of stuff. But think about it that way. You went from tragedy, early death, total destruction of your life to something that is exceptional.
Exactly.
And that's it. And I think that is something is inspiring for what is going on in our community now.
Yeah, we spend so much time. How many people don't want to be their mom or dad and end up just like them? They're oh, I don't want to be like my mom, or I don't want to be like my dad. I'm okay, well, my mom and dad are a huge part of me, but I'm going to be my own person. I'm going to love them for what they're going through. And then I'm going to hopefully use this in a better way. You know?
I mean, all those examples, you talk about this. This was in scripture yesterday. So if people aren't in love with Jesus Christ, I don't know what to tell you, but get on that wagon because it's awesome. It saved my life. Yesterday, they talked about sharing your testimony, like Apostle Paul, sharing your testimony. That's what she's doing. Okay, now you riddle this to me, Dr. James Choo. We have other people in here that battle addictions that won't get on the podcast.
Yeah.
Why won't they get on it compared to people that are this?
There's still a lot of stigma.
Yeah, but when she shares this, she's sharing it to people. This is on YouTube. You can watch it. You can listen to it on all the networks. I keep telling you this. Mm-hmm. And I even think, real talk, I always want to know where your flow is. Because you keep yours pretty guarded.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You remind me a little of Justin Sims in here where it's okay, so it's all perfect?
No.
Right, but you don't share it.
No. But that's culture, though.
Okay.
That's culture.
Okay.
It's good. That's culture.
I like vulnerability. Show me a weak person, I'll show you a strong person.
Yeah.
Okay, I like I guess the difference is she's a real mofo because she took it on herself. Again, I saw my parents. I'm like, I don't want to be like, I used to thank my dad all the time before he was killed. Thanks, you were a real role model for me. And he was like, oh, that's so nice. And I was like, of what I don't want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's hard, man. I mean,
Yeah.
that's hard because we know fathers and sons. You look up to them. That's hard, but
Yeah.
but that's her adversity. Sharing, when people share, show me a strong person. Show me a weak. Show me a strong person.
Yeah.
Show me, and that's what she did. Is she turned all that into positivity. But I guarantee you, when tough times come, you want her in your foxhole.
Yeah,
because she's been through some serious
Some
stuff
stuff
and
there
turned
about-
it into a positive. And even see, it's not what you do, it's what you don't do that makes you a success. It's not what you do, it's what you don't do. So she was like, hey, she embraced her flaws into wins. And I love what she said. I was speaking this morning is don't run away from issues and problems. Run to them.
Yeah.
Run to them and accept it, because that's what she's trying to say. And I've had some cases in my life where I thought the worst.
Yeah.
The worst. I mean, I do the same thing.
Oh, I do it all the time. Yeah. I mean, you have,
I do it with training, Wayne.
Yeah.
When we do the boxes, all the kids are like, well, I might not be able to clear that box.
Do that.
So are you going to die?
Yeah.
Or you
Oh,
you might
yeah,
blow
yeah.
out an ACL.
Mhm.
You might break an ankle. And the kids' eyes are like that, like golf balls, like, this guy is crazy, right? And it's like, but you give them the worst case scenario, so go for it.
Yeah.
And they're like, you got to be nuts.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, now, I don't know what she does on her leisure time. You can only bike so much.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if she's like, hey, I got to stay away from alcohol. I got to stay away from this. I can't do this. I don't know. I don't know that. And that's none of my business. But I do know, and she had me at hello. With I love vulnerable. I
Yeah.
love people. And to be honest, I'm done with surface talk. I've been done for about 3 years with surface talk. I don't want it.
Yeah.
Because you're weak, you're going nowhere, it's surface, you're not empathetic. I guarantee you this girl has feelings.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but just
My family describes me as emotional.
Well, me too.
I think
I'm half woman. Yeah, we get it.
yeah.
I'm always with somebody where they're like, does it always have to be so deep?
yeah.
She gone.
Well, I think for you, you do, from what the things I've heard from you, you have a real empathy for your father and your uncle. I mean, it's not, because I think, so you asked me where did it come from? Why don't people talk about these things? And stigma is a huge player in all this. There's moral failings. There's, what people will
They'll
say.
never get better.
Yeah, no, well, and and there's a lot of, but the society will judge potentially, and that's
If you have God in your life, you don't care. I'll go with you all day, Wayne. Don't get me fired up on Jesus Christ.
No, I'm giving the reasons why people wouldn't want to.
They don't have Jesus.
I do feel like society and culture tell you, like, don't talk about therapy, don't talk about all this stuff. But
Yeah.
I feel like probably what has happened in my past is it's just been so chaotic and so in the open that I've been like, well, can't really hide that anymore.
Yeah.
So,
And Wayne, it's all about control.
Mhm.
See, she could control situations. I mean, we did this growing up.
Mhm.
Griff did that. I was so out of control as a child.
Yeah.
I wanted to run my own business and be totally in control. Never had anybody work for me in 32 years.
Yeah.
It's all me. That's what she does on the bike. I personally think
yeah.
that's her.
yeah.
I'm controlling this. It's all me.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so actually on my dad's side, so growing up, we spent the majority of our time, and it was my first cousin, my twin brother, me, and then our two dads, and then my mama and papa. And so both of our, like my dad, my uncle, my mama are dead. And 2 weeks ago, my papa passed. And, for me, I was like, oh my God. Like when my dad died, I feel like there was definitely this moment of like resistance, a long moment, like years of just like, oh yeah, I guess.
Did
that
you ever
makes
go down
total
dark
sense.
paths?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
so many.
Drinking drugs and then go, okay,
Yeah.
I'm done.
And I've definitely like been depressed and thought about suicide. I mean, for me, it's like now I accept this is part of me. I do get depressed, and I I go to therapy. I also just know that it's okay to be sad versus like constantly being like, why do I feel sad and judging it? I'm like, well, let me tell you why you're sad. That makes total sense. And my best friend actually killed himself. And then I got this lovely tattoo of a semicolon, and it means like not the end. Like, you put a period at the end of a sentence.
I don't know that much. My sentences are horrible.
I know.
I was horrible in English. Everything's a dot. Yeah, I get it.
But it was just more of like, this acceptance of it. I don't even know where this all started. But it is like, I've certainly went down a lot of dark paths, and I've taken pills before. I've done everything that like, I didn't want to be, right?
Yeah.
So then that's whenever I was awesome. Like, okay, well, this is who you are.
Right.
Like, we got to own this.
How long did it take you to get to that point where you're accepting and you say, because I'm
still accepting
right,
it.
Right.
Like it's every day is
what I always hear is how long did it take you to get over your dad's death?
Oh,
you haven't gone to.
You never get over it.
Yeah.
That is where I was going. So my papa died, and it was just like this tragic thing happened to me again. I was just so sad.
The hits keep coming.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, like no wonder you're sad, because this entire family that you grew up with till you were 12 is gone. Like, and I was sitting at the graveside, and it's like my dad's, my uncle's, my mama's, and then now we're putting my papa down. I was like, no wonder you're so sad. But
the switch, we all bring it back to mental toughness. That's so much. So now I know her. It'd be like, I'm not going up against her. She'll kill me. You know what I'm saying? Because she already knows the worst. She already thought the worst, right? But I'm wanting the switch.
And so this is like switch. This is probably after, or like when Fred was like, I'm going to recommend you. But so right after we buried my papa, I was like, okay, Fred, like we should go do this race tomorrow in North Georgia. It's a 50-mile like mountain bike TT. And,
what do you mean Fred's going to recommend you?
Well, like to this podcast. Because, I've known Fred for a while, and he just now suggested me. So I just now accepted.
I could say a bad word, Freddie. Boink in front of Freddie.
But, so for me, I woke up, and I do have a lot of expectation now because I am a pro athlete, But I was just like, I'm just going to go do this race because it was beautiful that day, 55 and sunny in February. Like, we got to be there. So we start off, and Freddie decides, because we go off one at a time because it's a time trial. So it's not a mass start. And we go off, and Freddie just like sits in behind me. And I'm like, are you sure you don't want to go ahead? Like, I was just kind of wanted to like be out here listening to music. And now you're here. The last
race you guys did?
Yeah.
To be honest, Freddie praised you tons.
I think that's why
Freddie does not praise anyone.
And he won't do it to your face at all. Trust me.
No, I know. And he's
so warm.
Sat back there, and like all of a sudden it was like things are going away. Like I felt like I had high blood pressure for a week dealing with my papa's stuff. Like I was so sad. And just like to show up to a race with 2 hours of sleep, I was like, I'm going to do so bad. I'll probably have to quit halfway. And then I was like, you know what?
Makes her do that.
Yeah. So what makes you do that?
So I think a little bit of that is knowing that for me, going outside and being in the woods away from everything really is what I want in that moment. Like, I don't want to be.
But how? But how does that? Like, how? Why can't everybody do that? And then there goes your addictions, your pills. You're out of business.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, see. Okay. So let's. I think I have a reason. Okay. So you've just. The neuroscience behind trauma is pretty well delineated. They're always learning stuff about trauma. So if you look at someone's adverse childhood experiences, okay, and this has been documented pretty well, and there's a series of questions that you can ask, yes or no, 0 to 10. The higher your score is, the higher your childhood trauma. This is kind of like a screen. So some of the questions are like, have your parents ever been incarcerated? Yes or no. Divorce, yes or no. Do you ever witness drug abuse? Yes or no. Physical abuse, yes or no. And if you have that, if you just say yes to 4 or more, 6 or more, your there's some suggestion that your chemistry in your brain changes, for lack of a better word, and the anatomy of your brain changes. Okay, so here's the thing. When you experience all of that in your life so early on, and you've seen drugs and addiction and, all this kind of, chaos in your life, your brain is in a state of fight or flight. Okay. And that's just survival. All right. So fight or flight's good. All right. For if the bear's coming to attack you in the woods on the trails, fight or flight's good because it gets you out of the woods, running away, surviving. Get a break, bear's gone. Whew, okay, everything's good. The cortisol levels, the stress hormones are there to protect you.
Needed. Much needed.
Gives you strength in your arms, muscles, and then
crave it.
Yeah. So that it helps you, energize you, so you can get away from. However, if your stress and trauma is there all the time, and it's your mother and father or whoever are supposed to be the ones that help calm you down, settle you down, all this kind of stuff. But you've just got trauma and trauma and trauma and trauma and trauma. You're ramped up over and over and over again. You never get that rest. So instead of this, you're chronically stressed. Your cortisol levels are super high all the time. You don't get the break. You don't get so what it does, it changes your brain. Your brain becomes different under that chronic stress, and then your immune system is changed. So chronic disease, chronic stress, your ability to your prefrontal cortex, parts of your brain that are supposed to help you make good decisions and whatnot, can sometimes atrophy or shrink down. So a lot of times people are a little bit more impulsive when they have these chaotic backgrounds, and ultimately,
like just go do a 55-mile bike ride.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
yeah, right, exactly right. So ultimately, or let's take this pill, let's do this. And so a lot of times those pills and drugs calm you down, make you feel differently from your current circumstances, settle you in, or make you feel different from what? You are uncomfortable in your own body. Mm-hmm. Okay, so someone that doesn't have that type of chronic stress, they can manage things. Okay, so a little bit of stress, calm down. Okay, comfortable in your own skin. Okay, but when you don't have that type of, you have a chronically stressed background, you may very well be uncomfortable in your own skin. So
100%.
So when she's telling me that she's on the ride and she's thinking about her body and her legs feel when she's uncomfortable in this, and she's breathing and and she's getting into a flow state, that's the first time she's ever felt comfortable in her own skin.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah,
chills. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what some of the best treatments for chronic trauma, right, has been yoga. Why is yoga helpful? Well, yoga was developed in India during the time when there was war. What happens in war? You see people's heads get cut off. You get people are killed during war, limbs chopped off. Stressful. You're trying to survive, and what happens? PTSD. Mm-hmm. Right? Why do you think there's a warrior pose? Okay, and all this kind of stuff, right? You've done yoga.
Yeah.
So think about this. What is yoga? Why is yoga so great? Is because you're getting in these uncomfortable poses, and you're breathing and you're relaxing. And what are you becoming? More comfortable in your own skin. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So whether or not these yoga,
stop thinking so much, and you think
because
about your body.
the breathing helps calm down your nervous system. Mm-hmm. And also learning to relax within your own skin. So when you are gaining stress and you're suffering,
she's relaxing.
She's breathing, mm-hmm. and she's learning to be comfortable in her own skin.
So her bike is her therapy.
Exactly right. So I picked up on this early on, especially when you had your description of suffering. I don't see you like suffering. You just get into your legs and the flow and the this and the that, because now you're comfortable again in chaos. Now you are comfortable in your own system. Is that right?
I love that. Yeah, I've never thought about it.
Yeah,
that way.
but that is very much a part of why it's addicting, mm-hmm. because now you feel normal.
I know that whenever I get on the bike, I get to be confident and trust my body versus like being out in the world aimlessly.
Yeah, and
chaos
and
or-
the chaos, and what do you want to do? It's like, because normally if you had an attentive family that was consistent, hug, love, all right, everything's gonna be okay, okay, in your own skin. But when it's not, you don't get that, and it's what are you doing? You're fight or flight all the time. Oh my God,
Yeah.
And so you found the most healthy way of treating yourself under those circumstances to get back to be centered, all that kind of stuff. But there is real physiology behind that. This is not just voodoo. This is some of the top trauma experts in the world say that yoga works better than what? Pills, right? And whether it's opioids or whatever type of pill, they're all different ways of making you feel different from your current circumstance. Does that make sense?
Because you do not want to be in that current circumstance.
And you don't want to be in your own skin.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but that breathing, all of that kind of stuff, what you are also doing is calming down your nervous system, but you're also resprouting some of those, the what we call neuroplasticity, strengthening your brain over those circumstances. So what can you do? You can think a little bit more clearly.
Yeah.
You can calm down and think again, because this part, which has been inactive, the prefrontal cortex, what we call the executive functioning portion of the brain, where you make decisions during chaos. It's like your air traffic controller. There's a lot of chaos. What do you have to do? You got to think through it with the reasoning portion of your brain right here. Okay.
Yeah.
They say that's one of the most stressful jobs.
Yeah, right. So but they have a strong prefrontal cortex. But if you calm down, you can think again, and then you can reason through things.
It's like
because
you can come into that moment versus like, sometimes I describe it as like whenever I feel chaotic and like not on the bike, it's just like so much brain thought, like do this, do that, but then whenever you can like come into your body, it's just like all of that melts away and there's one thing.
Because this part is ramped up. The emotions, the anxiety, and then can't think, and then calm down, legs, body. Now I can focus again.
Okay. So
does that make sense?
That's what I wanted. Thank you.
I love that.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah. That's what the listeners, everybody wanted.
Yeah.
So her
we defined it. Let's go.
So her definition of mental toughness would be
I don't know. Still. I was like, wait, I thought we figured it out. And I'm like, no, I don't know. Like, is it the fact mental toughness? Yeah, I don't know. Is there a definition still? Or is it just
trying
like
to figure out?
Yeah, like, do I just have mental toughness because I have figured out how to come into my own body? Or like what is mental toughness?
Mental awareness.
It could be totally like, is it even a thing?
What is it to you?
Now I feel so confused by it. I'm like, what is it? Because mental toughness is defined as like an obstacle that is perceived super hard and you overcome it, right? Mm-hmm. But like if you never have obstacles, like in a sense, like if you just define life as like what it is here, what it is now, is it an obstacle or is it just part of it? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, because then you're able to be more present and you are like, the rock in front of me is not an obstacle. It's just a thing and I need to do it.
Mm-hmm. I got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think I could wrap this up. I know everybody's got to split and do their thing, but I think
I want to be here all day.
It's fun. Isn't it? It's great. That's what I was trying to pull it out of Wang today to get that answer that I've been waiting for that. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, I had to listen to it all. I had to figure out what her process was.
But most people that are mentally tough, I found this being congruent. And Ben Griff, you could tell me if I'm wrong, can't define it.
Oh, yeah.
But the people that aren't could tell you some slapstick sentence and you're like, okay, you run away from it. I think a person like Cass just runs to it. And she would be on my team for sure. And I can't thank you enough for coming in.
Thank you.
That was so much fun. Hey, there was a little bit of flow state there. Just having these conversations is always so good.
Yeah. Well, I you're on my team anytime because of her openness and honesty and communication. And I've been called a hot mess for a long time, and I finally did some research on that. Well, I'm going to hit you with something. I'm God's mess. And
Yeah.
God's mess could turn into a masterpiece. And that's what we all are.
I love it.
Yes. No, we are all perfect.
Yeah.
We're all on
Yeah.
our journey.
I love it.
It's amazing.
I love it. Thank you, Dr. James Choo, Cass, Ben, Griff. Another one. And we still don't have the answer.
No.
I don't know. We have the answer.
We have
I
the
would say just wrap that up.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.